Haman is so bitter and so resentful and immature and insecure that not only does he want Mordecai dead, but he wants all the Jews put to death. And when Mordecai hears that Ahasuerus, who is as insecure as Haman, decides to sign this decree because Haman has promised to put money in the treasury to have him destroy these Jews, the decree goes out to all 120 provinces that all of the Jews are to be put to death. And when Mordecai hears of it, the scripture says, in great distress, he tears his clothes, he rents his clothes, and he's now in sackcloth and ashes. It's a Jewish sign of great distress. He is grieved. He is beside himself with grief, because not only has his actions caused his demise, but his people are now going to suffer because of him. I saw on the news this morning that Denise McNair, one of the young girls who was killed in the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing in 1963, her mother was the last surviving parent of those 4 girls who were killed in that bombing. This racist trash set that church ablaze with a bomb and killed those 4 little girls in the 16th Street Baptist Church. And Mrs. McNair, her husband is gone, all of her family is still there, some of her family is still there, but she's the last surviving parent of the 4 girls who were killed in that bombing. And she is the only parent of the girls who allowed Dr. King to preach at her daughter's funeral, because all of the other parents were resentful of the fact that King's actions in their minds caused the bombing of that church. And there are times when you take a stand. There are times when you are convicted by your principles. And let me say this to you, brothers and sisters. A principle never becomes a conviction unless you stand by it when times are difficult. And there are a whole lot of us who will talk about how strong we are until the time comes to be strong. Many of us talk about how Christian we are until the time comes to be Christian. Your faith might cause you to lose your job. Your faith might cause you to lose some friends. Your faith might cause you to be excluded from some things that you used to be included in. But if it's a principle, it's not a conviction until you stand by it when everybody is against you. If God be for us, I wish I had somebody to help me preach it. And listen, when you are strong in the Lord, there are days when you just got to stand by yourself. If nobody wants to go with me, I'll go. If nobody wants to give him praise, I will. If nobody wants to shout hallelujah, I will. If you're too embarrassed to let the world know that you're on the Lord's side, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Mordecai tears his clothes in reaction to the king's decree. His action has caused a reaction that's about to destroy his people. But unbeknownst to him, God will use the decree. God will use the reaction of Haman and Ahasuerus to get glory. And sometimes your enemies think they've cornered you, but they are setting you up for a breakthrough. They think that they've trapped you and they've set a ditch for you and you're going to fall in it. But the same ditch that they've dug for you, God will see to it that they fall in it themselves. I need somebody who reads the Bible. Fret not yourself because of evildoers, neither be envious against the workers of iniquity. They shall soon be cut off like grass, and they shall wither like the green herb. You got to watch people who are insecure. Because people who are insecure, it spills over into envy. And a person who is envious of you is more dangerous than a person who's jealous of you. Because somebody who's jealous of you will try to drive the same kind of car you drive, or style their hair the same way you style your hair. That's really a sincere form of flattery. They really like you. They really want to be you. They don't want you to know it, but they really want to be you. That's jealousy. You can handle that. That's benign. That's innocuous. That's you can throw that to the side. But folk who are envious of you don't want what you have. They just don't want you to have it. And they will do everything they can to destroy your image in another person's eye. I think I've mentioned this to you before. My mama had a saying for everything. And whenever somebody was envious and know that they didn't have it going on like the person that they were envious of, my mama had a saying for that. My mama's saying for that was, the dog can't eat the hay, but he won't let the cow eat it either. Translation: you can't sing, but you won't give her the mic. You can't preach, but you criticize everybody else's preaching. They're not going to give you the promotion, so you make sure they don't get the promotion. Somebody ought to help me talk here. But when God is on your side, it does not matter what your enemy is plotting. Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans that I have for you. Plans to prosper you, to give you a future and a hope. Don't get upset about what people think they can do to you. While they are plotting, God has a plan. You know, he tears his clothes off. And Esther hears how Mordecai is carrying on. And she sends Hatak out there with some clothes and tells Mordecai to put these clothes on and stop carrying on so. And then go out there and find out why he's so upset. And Hatak goes and brings Mordecai the clothes that Esther has sent, and Mordecai refuses to put them on because he knows what's at stake. And he sends Hatak with a request to Queen Esther to tell Esther that he heard about what Ahasuerus is getting ready to do at the behest of Haman. And not only is Mordecai carrying on in sackcloth and ashes, but he's doing it in a place that can get him killed. Because nobody comes to the king's gate in sackcloth and ashes. But when you are in trouble, you don't care who's looking at you. You don't care what nobody thinks about you. Listen, when you need the Lord, you don't care who is sitting around you. Father, I stretch. You know the reason many of us will never get promoted? It's because we're too proud to ask. You will never get blessed when you're too proud to acknowledge that you're down and you need God to pick you up. Pride will keep you from blessing. Arrogance will keep you from blessing. You've got to be able to admit, God, I can't do this without your help. There's some mother in here this morning. There's some father in here this morning who's had to go to the Lord and say, God, I've done the best I could. I've raised him the best I could. I'm putting him in your hands now. I've talked, I've prayed, I've cried, I've tried. There's nothing else I can do. I'm putting him in your hand. Have your way. Yeah. Sometimes life stresses you so that you don't care nothing about no makeup. You don't care if your clothes match. You need the Lord. You need some help. And you don't care where the help comes from. You just need some help. Mordecai could have been put to death because of how he looked. But he's desperate. And he sends a request to Esther. And Esther says, go tell Mordecai that any person who comes before the king and has not been summoned can be put to death. And if you come in the king's presence unsummoned and he does not raise his golden scepter, man or woman can be put to death. Esther says, go tell Mordecai, even Queen Esther has not seen her own king in 30 days. If I go, he'll kill me. And listen to what Mordecai says. Mordecai says, go in there and tell Esther I said this. Go in there and tell Esther this. Don't you think, because you up there with them, you won't be killed too. I want to tell somebody in here this morning, don't you think because you up there with them, looking down on the rest of us, that when they get ready to use the N-word, you included in that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really telling and sad about our people that we want to be the only ones up. We don't want to pull nobody else up. We want to be the only one white folks say, you're not like the rest of them. Don't you think because you went to Prairie Review? Don't you think because you got a nice car and live in the gated community that when the time comes they won't turn against you? Because God does not care if you fill out spreadsheets or spread out bed sheets. He can use you wherever you are. And if you acknowledge that God is on your side, say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. God's been good to me in my blackness, and I don't have to change my culture to be accepted by white folks. God is on my side.
Yes, yes.
I got to go downtown. Y'all trying to make me stay here too long. I got to go. But our old black slave parents, they wouldn't let them worship in the church. And when they did, they made them sit in the balcony. And then after a while, they put them out all together. And they heard their preaching through the window. Those old black slaves heard one thing, but they understood something else. They heard the old white preacher say, "You are inferior." That's what they heard, but they understood something else. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. They heard the white preacher say, "You're nothing and nobody." That's what they heard, but they understood, I got shoes. You got shoes. All God's children. Ever got a witness here? They heard the slave master say, "You're going to be slaves the rest of your life." That's what they heard. But they understood, before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Somebody ought to help me close here. Esther, don't you think because you're up there with them, they won't kill you? And who knows that you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Who knows that you got the corner office for such a time as this? Who knows that you've been made vice president for such a time as this? Who knows that you have money for such a time as this? God did not let you get in that position by accident. God put you there by divine providence. And in his providence, you have one of two choices. You can be fearful or you can be faithful. You can be selfish or you can be a steward. Some of y'all was raised like I was raised. About this time of year, November, December, they would kill hogs in our neighborhood. That's gone. They don't do that no more. You got to get your pig's feet at Bud's. But years ago, my daddy used to get Mr. Willie Coward to come over to our house and kill that hog that he'd been fattening up all the year. And down the street, Miss Gracie wanted some chitlin. And 2 or 3 people on the other side wanted some bacon. And then further down the street, Miss Claudia Pickney wanted some pig feet. And then up the road, Mr. Isaac's wife, Miss Rebecca Guillory, wanted some pigtails. And that hog went all the way down on both sides of the street. And now we bring the hog to the slaughterhouse because we don't want nobody to know that we have anything. But there was a time when nobody had anything, and we shared the little bit we had with those who didn't have as much as we did. And God made a way out of no way. And with nickels and dimes, we built colleges and universities, and now we have six-figure salaries, and HBCUs are about to close because we don't support what brought us through. Esther, if you're in here this morning,
Yeah.
don't think you all that because you got a job tomorrow. All it takes is 24 hours, and the folk at the top can come down to the bottom. I gotta go. Y'all trying to make me stay here too long. I gotta go up downtown. I need my money. I gotta go. I want you to see Esther's role. He said, go tell Esther. I said, don't think because she's living with the king in the palace and got all these servants and eating all that good food and taking a bath in these nice bathtubs, that the same thing ain't gonna happen to her that's gonna happen to us, because God's gonna deliver. He wants to use her. Read it when you get home. But deliverance, if she don't do it, is going to come from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And when Esther got that word, she said, go tell Mordecai to call all the Jews together and have them to fast for 3 days and 3 nights. And she said, I'm going before the king unsummoned. If I perish, I perish. 2 things, and I'm in my car going downtown because y'all ain't gonna stop me from going downtown. Esther is with her people in identification. She realizes now that her Jewishness can't save her. So she throws her lot in with her people because now she realizes whose side God is on. And so she throws her lot in with them in identification. But not only does Esther relate to them in identification, she relates to them by mediation. If I perish, I perish. I'm going in. It might cost me my life, but I'm going in. That reminds me of somebody. That reminds me of somebody who wanted to save his people. But in order to save them, he had to identify and become one of them, yet without sin. So the Father prepared him a body made of flesh and blood. And he came through 42 generations, boarded a 9-month nature train, implanted himself in the womb of a 15-year-old peasant girl, let himself be born in Bethlehem of Judea. And then when he was born, they said, you will call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. He was born in Bethlehem, identifying with us in our humanity. He was reared in Nazareth, He was baptized in the Jordan River. And when he was baptized, the heavens opened and a dove descended. And the voice of God was heard all over the place. This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. He went about doing good. He healed the sick. He gave sight to the blind. He made the lame to walk. He made the dumb to speak. He made the deaf to hear. He identified with us in our humanity. But we needed more than identification. We also needed mediation. We needed a go-between. We needed somebody to take God's hand from heaven and take our hands from earth and put our hands together in an everlasting friendship. And the only way God could redeem us, Jesus had to die for us. He died. Didn't he die? I'm trying to get out of here and go downtown now. He died. Didn't he die on an old rugged cross? He died till the sun refused to shine. He died till graves broke wide open. He died until the centurion soldier said, surely this must be the Son of God. He died. They buried his body in a borrowed grave. Stayed there all night Friday night. Stayed there all day Saturday. Stayed there all night Saturday night. And if he had stayed there, we would still be in our sin. But early, Sunday morning, he got up from the grave. Is there anybody here? No, he got up. Is there anybody here? Glad he got up. Is there anybody here saved this morning because the Lord's been good to you? Tell him thank you. Thank you for all you've done for me. Thank you for the doors you've opened. Thank you for the prayers you've answered. Thank you for food on my table. Thank you. Why don't you look at somebody? Tell somebody, if it had not been for the Lord on my side, if it had not been for the grace of God, I wouldn't be where I am. Hey! He brought me. He kept me. He never left me. I know he's all right. After a while, by and by, when the warfare is over, I'm going to be with Jesus. Is there anybody here know you're going home to be with the Lord? Tell him, thank you. I got a home on the other side. Thank you.